Hello horror story lovers. Today we have a new video on our hands to dissect.
April 20th, 1972. The air in the Himalayas is sharp, slicing through my lungs as I write. It feels both exhilarating and suffocating. My name is Captain Robert Hargrove, and I'm a former soldier. 4 of us set out on this expedition, fueled by the thrill of discovery and the promise of adventure. I was trained to lead and survive, but these mountains hold an unknown terror that makes even my heart hesitate. With me is Edgar, our enthusiastic young botanist, eager to document the flora of the high peaks. Then there's Mike, a robust camper, who finds strength in the physical challenge of the mountains. And Caleb, a college student, who attaches himself to us as if we're his lifeline. Together, we formed a makeshift family, each with our own fears and hopes. Today, we began our ascent to the glacial ridge. The slope felt forbidding, and the weather seemed to shift in response to our presence. A thick fog rolled over the valley, obscuring our path, sealing us into a world absent of time. Edgar joked nervously about the legends of the Yeti, calling it the abominable snowman. But his laughter did little to ease my growing despair. There was something visceral about this place, a feeling nestled deep in my core, a sensation I couldn't shake. As we pressed upward, shadows flitted at the edges of my vision, fleeting figures that seemed to retreat into the thickening mists. Was it just a trick of the light, or something more? April 21st, 1972. The fog lingered, heavy and oppressive as we made camp today. The silence gnawed at us. As twilight descended, the shadows grew longer, forcing a sense of unease into our bones. We gathered around a small fire, but its warmth barely penetrated the cold that wrapped around us like a shroud. The mountains loomed over us, ancient and indifferent. Then, the howling wind broke through the stillness, and it brought with it other sounds. A low, resonant growl sent a chill skittering down my spine. I tried to dismiss it as the wind's trickery, the sounds of nature weaving a macabre symphony, but the anxiety buzzed around us like a live wire. I could see the fear on each of their faces. We were all thinking the same thing, but no one dared to say it aloud. April 22nd, 1972. Everything changed today. We set off at dawn, the air biting against our skin. As we navigated a narrow ridge, the landscape opened up into a vast, snow-dusted valley. And that's when we saw it, an enormous figure, perched atop the opposite mountain. It loomed like a dark sentry against the pale sky. At first we thought it was just a trick of the light, a mountain shadow cast by the low sun, but it wasn't. It stood there, bone-chillingly still, covered in matted fur. Its presence was both monstrous and awe-inspiring, a grotesque parody of everything we had feared in the stories. All rational thought bled away. The legends had come alive, and we were no longer mere explorers, we were prey. What the hell is that? Mike breathed his usual bravado, completely evaporating. The creature then met our gaze, a piercing focus that sent shockwaves through my system. I could feel its primal intelligence, something not of this world, and it felt like it was beckoning us, an invitation into the abyss. We were intruders in its kingdom, and it was now making its presence known. April 23rd, 1972. Our resolve is shattered. Panic gripped us as we stumbled in retreat, scrambling to find our way back down the mountain. But the beast was already there. It moved with an unnatural grace, as swift as a shadow, its growls reverberating through the valley like thunder. Whatever this thing was, it was relentless. It was hunting us. In the chaos, Caleb tripped over a rock, his cries of panic spilling from his lips. "Help somebody! Please!" He screamed, but my instincts screamed back. My training had taught me that in the face of a predator, you do not show weakness. You do not stop. But here, watching my comrades crumble, a profound helplessness gripped me. Before my very eyes, it seized Caleb. It was like a wolf taking down its prey. One moment he was there, fingers digging into the snow, and the next, only silence. The panic coiled tighter in my gut, choking any sense of clarity. We just ran. We didn't look back. We just ran. April 24th, 1972. We camped in a grove of frozen trees. the night as black as the void. Sleep eluded us. We huddled together, whispers of doubt and terror weaving through the darkness. Edgar, his eyes wide, clutched his pack as if it could somehow shield him from what was coming. Mike and I exchanged helpless glances, a silent understanding passing between us. We were on borrowed time. Then it came. Tay. Growling, louder now, vibrating through the frozen ground beneath us. I readied myself, desperate to protect what remained of our group. I caught a glimpse of Edgar's panicked expression as he suddenly darted toward the trees. A flash of no. My instincts screamed at me to follow, to help, but when I turned, they were both gone. The shadows had claimed my men. In the shrouded darkness, a terror like nothing I've ever known wrapped around me. Every breath was thick and constricted. I could hear nothing but the biting wind and the echoes of my own pounding heart. Alona stumbled through the snow, with no destination, just running, until my legs faltered. April 25th, 1972. The sun rose this morning, its light distorted through the fog and the blood on the snow. I found myself crouched against the base of a rock, my hands trembling as I grasped this diary, searching for words to stave off the despair. But there was nothing left in this accursed valley but silence. That deep, terrible silence. I cannot bear to live with this knowledge. My companions lost to something so far beyond our understanding. Each scream that rang through the night is now melded into the haunting refrain of their last moments. There is no hope. I can sense it now. Ti? Creature. It's a looming presence, ever closer, beckoning me to join my friends in the darkness. My heart beats a hollow rhythm in my chest as I feel it drawing near. I write these final words to mark my presence here. A lone soldier facing a horror I thought I had left behind in the war. No one will find this. May I be remembered, and may God forgive me for the fate that has befallen us all.
Yuki, a small, quiet girl, muttered under her breath, cursing her own forgetfulness. It was 5:30, and the school building stood like a giant, dark silhouette against the dying light of the evening. It was completely deserted. Her notebook, the one filled with all the crucial notes for tomorrow's big exam, was sitting right where she'd left it, in classroom 3B. She just had to run in and grab it. The hallway stretched out in front of her, a long, dim tunnel that seemed to echo with every footstep. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered erratically, casting long, twisted shadows that seemed to dance and writhe with her every movement. It was eerie, but she pushed the feeling down. She had one goal: get the notebook and get out. Finally, she reached classroom 3B. She pushed the door, and it creaked open with a low groan, the room inside swallowing what little light spilled in from the hallway. The air inside was thick and heavy, and so cold it was a shock against the humid evening air outside. A strange, faint smell hung in the room, something metallic and old, almost like dried blood. Yuki shivered, telling herself it was just the school's ancient, overzealous air conditioning system working overtime. There it was, her notebook resting on her desk. A huge wave of relief washed over her. She snatched it up, clutching it to her chest like a lifeline. But just as she turned to leave, a whisper, so thin and reedy it was barely there, brushed against her ear. Forgotten something. Yuki froze, her blood turning to ice. She spun around. There was no one there. The classroom was empty. She tried to rationalize it. It must have been the wind, she thought. A draft whistling through the old building's cracks. It had to be. But the whispers didn't stop. They grew louder, more insistent. coming from all around her now. "Look up," they hissed, a chorus of voices that sounded like decaying breaths. She didn't want to. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to just get out. But a morbid curiosity, a terrifying pull she couldn't resist, made her slowly, reluctantly raise her gaze. The ceiling. It wasn't the plain, white expanse of tiles she remembered. It was a writhing, squirming mass of pale, rotten hands. They sprouted from the ceiling tiles like grotesque fungi, reaching down towards her. Their skeletal fingers twitched and curled, their nails long, black, and caked with dirt. A scream tore from Yuki's throat, but it was a choked, terrified sound, barely a whisper itself. The hands descended, their touch as cold and clammy as a grave. She stumbled backward, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. The whispers intensified, morphing from hisses into a horrifying cacophony of shrieks and moans that filled the room. Then, with a deafening bang, the classroom door slammed shut. The lock clicked into place with a final, ominous thud. Yuki was trapped. She lunged for the door, rattling the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The hands closed in around her, their grip tightening, their touch now burning like ice against her skin. That's when she saw the faces. Gaunt, pale faces began to emerge from the ceiling, their features twisted in agony. Their eyes were just hollow, black sockets, and their mouths were stretched wide in silent screams. They were trapped in the ceiling, their bodies embedded within the plaster. Untile their hands, the only part of them free to reach out for a release they would never find. One face became clearer than the rest. A girl with long, dark hair plastered to her pallid skin. Her empty eyes, though vacant, seemed to bore directly into Yuki's soul. A single, tear-shaped stain, dark and viscous like old oil, trickled from one of her empty eye sockets. The girl's lips moved, though no sound came out. But a single word formed, a chilling whisper that echoed not in the room, but inside Yuki's mind. Mine. The hands pulled her upward, their grip relentless and unbreakable. Yuki felt her feet leave the floor, her body being drawn toward the writhing mass of limbs above. The faces in the ceiling opened their mouths wider, their silent screams now a chorus of hungry anticipation. The last thing Yuki saw before the darkness swallowed her was her own terrified face, reflected in the dark, tear-shaped stain on the girl's cheek. Then she was pulled into the ceiling, another face to join the writhing. Silent chorus, trapped forever in the plaster of classroom 3B. Down below, on the desk, her notebook lay open. Its pages were filled with notes she would never use, a silent testament to the last and most important lesson she had forgotten. The night air hung heavy and still, a thick blanket of silence draped over the desolate streets. Two figures moved through the shadows, their footsteps muffled by the darkness. They were robbers, partners in crime, prowling for their next big score. This was supposed to be the one, the job that would let them hang up their masks and leave this life behind for good. They scanned the rows of quiet houses, each one a potential jackpot, each one a risk. As they crept along, their eyes fell upon a peculiar house, almost hidden at the very end of the street. It was old, weathered, and seemed to sag under the weight of its own secrets. An old lady's house, they figured. Easy target. Without a second thought, they found a way in. The lock on the back door gave way with a soft click, and they slipped inside, their hearts pounding with a mix of adrenaline and greed. The air inside was stale, smelling of dust and something else, something faintly sweet and sickly. They expected to find jewelry, cash, maybe some heirlooms, but the house was surprisingly bare. As they moved from room to room, their flashlight beams cutting through the gloom, a growing sense of unease settled over them. This wasn't right. There was nothing here. Then they found it, tucked away in a dark corner of the kitchen, almost blending into the wall, was a door. It wasn't just any door. This one was old, made of heavy, dark wood, and it was locked tight with a heavy iron bolt. Stranger still, the surface was covered in bizarre, intricate markings, symbols they'd never seen before, scratched deep into the wood. Curiosity, or perhaps desperation, got the better of them. They had to know what was behind it. Working together, they put their shoulders into it, grunting and straining, until the old wood splintered and the bolt finally gave way. The moment the door swung open, a wave of stench hit them like a physical blow. It was a putrid, gag-inducing smell of decay and something else, something acrid and chemical. It poured out from the darkness below, a tangible warning. Hesitantly, they flicked their flashlights down the steep, narrow staircase. The beam of light danced on the damp stone walls, revealing more of those strange symbols. Taking a deep breath, they began their descent, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. They reached the bottom and found themselves in a large, cavernous basement. What they saw made the blood freeze in their veins. The room was a gallery of horrors. Piles of bones, human and animal, were stacked in the corners. Dried, leathery carcasses hung from hooks on the ceiling, swaying gently in a draft they couldn't feel. Shelves lined the walls, crammed with glass jars filled with murky liquid and unidentifiable organs, floating like grotesque specimens. More markings, more of those unsettling symbols were painted on the walls in what looked disturbingly like dried blood. And in the very center of the room stood a massive black cauldron, its surface stained and scorched. Suddenly, a sound from above, the slow, deliberate creak of floorboards. They froze, their flashlights snapping towards the top of the stairs. A voice, thin and croaky like dry leaves, skittering across pavement, echoed down into the chamber. You have entered my domain. You are not welcome here. They spun around, their lights frantically searching the shadows of the basement. And there she was, the old lady. She was standing not 10 feet away, a crooked, unnerving grin splitting her face. She was impossibly thin and unnaturally tall, her eyes to sunken pits of darkness in a face of ashen, wrinkled skin. Panic seized them. They scrambled, tripping over bones and each other, trying to get back to the stairs, back to the world above. But it was too late. The old lady raised a single, gnarled hand. The air grew cold, and the shadows in the room seemed to deepen, to writhe and twist as if alive. They felt an invisible force slam the basement door shut, the sound booming like a death knell. The witch, for that's what she had to be, had powers they couldn't possibly comprehend. She whispered words in a language they didn't understand, and the shadows themselves rose up, forming writhing tendrils that wrapped around their ankles, their wrists, their throats, dragging them down. They screamed until their lungs burned, but their voices were swallowed by the darkness, drowned out by the old lady's high-pitched, triumphant cackles that filled the cursed room. They were trapped. Days bled into weeks in that subterranean prison. The witch would descend the stairs, her eerie grin never leaving her face, bringing them scraps of food and foul-tasting water, just enough to keep them alive. She would talk to them, her voice a constant, horrifying rasp, telling them of her long life, of her dark arts, of the others who had stumbled into her home. One day, she stood before them, and her form began to shift. The frail old lady disguise melted away, revealing her true self. Her skin tightened, her eyes glowed with a malevolent red light, and her smile stretched into a terrifying, predatory sneer. She was an ancient, evil thing, and she was hungry. With a wave of her hands, the piles of bones around the room, the remains of her past victims, crumbled instantly into fine grey dust that swirled in the air. She looked at the two robbers, her prisoners, her newest acquisitions, with a look of pure, insatiable hunger. "Welcome to your new life," she hissed, her voice now a chorus of whispering echoes. "You will serve me well." And just like that, the robbers were never seen again. Above ground, their families searched. Police filed reports, but no trace was ever found. They had simply vanished. They became just another story, another unsolved disappearance. But down in the basement, they had become another set of bones, their life essence drained to feed the ancient evil. The old lady's house remained, standing silent and dark at the end of the street, a permanent scar on the neighborhood. And with each passing year, with every soul she consumed, the witch in the basement grew stronger, more powerful, patiently waiting for the next curious, greedy, or unlucky prey to enter her domain.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay scared and don't forget to subscribe for more nightmares.